It helps if I turn it on, I found out. So hi there. Um, this is the ILS-1 Balamb, which is the shuttle that I built to take Kerbals between the Minmus, which is over there, and Kerbin, which is that tiny dot over there. And so I'm just making a little course correction here, because Minmus is on a tilt. So I need to make a course correction to correct for that tilt. And some very, very fine adjustments here to make sure that I crash into the planet at exactly, I do mean exactly, the right height. So, that should do it. However, I don't like that inclination one bit. Is that the best I'm really going to get? Yeah, that's the best I'm going to get. Okay. So it's still on a slight tilt, but it's not a horrible tilt. And if I can set Echo Point as a target, I can correct for the tilt here. As well as do this to correct the altitude. This is very finicky, so we're going to err on the side of caution here. But that should do it. And that's going to cost 200 meters a second. But it's probably going to cost more if I try to do it in orbit. I honestly don't know what speed I'm going to be going at that point, so what I'll do is I'll warp to here. Basically, the cost it costs you to correct your tilt is based on your current speed. So obviously you ideally want to do it when you're moving as slow as possible. So as we fall back towards the planet, our speed's going to pick up here, and whammo. And I honestly think, yeah, this is going to be more expensive doing it here, so I won't. I will have to slow down a bit. Actually, no, this would be not the right direction. I want to go radial in. There. So, we've got how many minutes to the periaps? 7 minutes to the periaps. And 5 minutes until the maneuver, so we need to button up for Aerocapture. So we're going to turn prograde. We are going to retract the solar panels. Retract the docking port. I know this is a bit dark right now, but it's going to get much, much brighter once we go around the light side of the planet. It's kind of why I figured this would be a good time to stream it, because this is one of the few times where I'm getting a Minmus return that's on the bright side. I'm going to shut down the habitat core. And yeah, that's fine. We've got 12 days left on the hab timer. And I'm going to keep the aero brakes out because the calculations were done with aero brakes in this configuration. If it turns out that this doesn't work, oh well, I have to figure it out later. But, well, I have a quick save. So, returning prograde. Hopefully these air brakes here also keep the craft stable. That's the other thing that I'm worrying about. Well, hopefully that doesn't bring back too bad memories. Well, it's not going to be space for long. See, we need to slow down here by about 900 meters a second, but that would cost fuel, and I don't want to waste fuel. So I'm going to solve my problem in a completely different sort of way. We're approaching the atmosphere at nearly 1,000 meters a second. Switching camera to free mode. That's pretty. I'll take another screenshot while I can here. And now this is really out of my hands. It seriously is. Oh yes. It's about to get a hell of a lot prettier. You may experience some G's on this flight. Just saying. Which, to be honest, given the direction that they should be facing for this maneuver, yeah, the crew cabin is actually facing the wrong way, so we'll say they're in the hitchhiker container, because that is facing the right way for this maneuver. Okay, the air brakes are going to have to go. They will burn up otherwise. What does trajectory say? We're going to be lower than I thought we would be. Pitch and yaw are enabled on the air brakes. It will give us some means of control during this. Okay, we're still going to have an orbit after this. That's the good news. And we are now ascending again. Correcting for roll deviation. How much blader have we lost? That's not as good as I thought it would be. That really isn't. I technically can replace the heat shields on orbit. But that's a lot of ablator gone. I may have to come up with a more permanent heat shielding solution for this craft. Because I think the expandable one doesn't use a blader. So I may end up having to retrofit that onto it. Yeah, that's more than half the ablator. These are perfectly fine. Completely non-essential. But this one... I'm half tempted to jettison as it is now, because it's not going to be any good for another trip. Oh well. Best laid plans and all of that. The upside is it did exactly what it's designed to do. Watch this ends up being more, yeah, slightly more than the other one. Oh well. Still saves a hell of a lot of fuel to return to Kerbin. Stand by for translation to heat shield jettison attitude. And goodbye, heat shield. You got us back in one piece. Opening engine cowling. I'm not getting rid of the engine cowling, that's just cool. Every time I see that planet name, all I see is Samus. I know it's Sarnus, but... Or have I actually shown you what the outer planets look like in the mod that I'm using? Okay. Well, we've got time to this next burn node, so I can show you a bit while we wait. There's a time where a ship this complicated, and I mean it does have, what, oh, I'm not focused on it. Um, 85 parts. There's a time when even 85 parts would lag out the game, so I'm quite happy that this thing doesn't. Okay, now I'm just raising up the low point of the orbit because slowing down in the atmosphere did do so in such a way that we would crash into the planet on the next go-round. Which, we don't want that. Crashing is bad. Wait, just find out how many orbits you have to go for. Next, next, next. Quite a few. But in quite a few orbits, you get a pretty good intersect. Yeah, that's good. Okay, outer planets. So, you know Eve, this horrid thing that I'm going to have to finally conquer at some time. Gilly is its moon. We know all these folks. Duna, probably our next target. Ike, moon of Duna. Drez, so lonely. Nobody ever visits. We're going to change that. Yeah. Jewel? You know Jewel. All of its moons. This, however, is the new stuff. I give you Sarnus. Sadly, as far as I know, the rings are completely fake. Which is an utter shame. For many reasons. One, you would never actually want to fly a spacecraft anywhere near these bloody things. At least spacecraft with people in it. But, you know, the challenge of this is to get to the moons here in the rings. Sorry! I'm sorry. It would cost a hell of a lot to render all of the little asteroids and things there. So we have this fellow here, which is Hale, named after Jennifer Hale. I have no idea why, but yeah, it's Hale. Ovok. What's an Aussie kiss? Elu. You may remember Elu was actually a stock planet in the game. But the people that made this mod decided, you know what? Elu's boring out there on its own. Let's give it some friends. And so they put it in orbit of Sarnus. Slate. Which I've got to admit, I have no idea what's supposed to be special about Slate, but by the looks of it, it's got some really awesome looking mountain ridges and things and canyons. Oh! I suppose I could. Oh, and Tikto. Tikto is an imagining of Titan. Saturn's moon, Titan. It actually has an atmosphere, and I believe these are methane lakes. Liquid methane lakes. So, that's a thing. What else do we have here? Orlum. This is basically Uranus. Yeah. You would freeze to death, but float. It's very weird. So this is Uranus. It also has some weak rings, just like the real one. It has a polka. Again, I know nothing about this planet other than Polta. I know nothing about that body except it exists. And I could spoil it for myself, I could look it up, but I'm really, really tempted to carefully explore these things. And this is Pyrax. And then you also have Wall, which is a moon, which itself has a body in orbit trapped around it, which is tall, which I guess is technically a moon of a moon. It's basically a little trapped asteroid. So that's a change. Here's Nadon. Now, because of how Kerbal Space Program works, this is supposed to be Neptune, but the real Neptune is very weird because it actually... I can't remember if it's Neptune or Uranus. One of the two. In reality, it spins the other way around. It spins... hold on. So normally, a planet spins in that direction. Well, Uranus or Neptune, I can't remember which one, they spin around like this on their poles. Not opposite, but, you know, completely crazy. Yeah. And then it is Neptune, I'm right. I'm like, no. Trying to remember my dynamics here. And this one also has two moons, and they're basically on these really inclined orbits. This one's in a retrograde orbit, which is its own challenge. And this one is also in a retrograde orbit. This is a prograde orbit. This is a this is a retrograde orbit. This one's got a prograde orbit. So yeah, they're both challenging targets to go after, especially if you're going to do them both in one mission. And then finally you have Plock, which is basically supposed to be the new Pluto. It's a bajillion miles out there, and it also has Charon, which orbits around it. And that's that. So those are all the new places I have to explore eventually one of these days. So I'm going to park this thing at the space station, and I am done for the night. But so far, I'm happy. I managed to get some scientists down to the moon base. So they're now running the greenhouse there, so it's actually generating supplies. The only problem is there isn't really a huge stockpile of supplies. So I need to do something about that. Um, and I also got down a freighter that's going to transport stuff from Minmus back up to the surface and back down again and all that. And it has some cargo containers in it that will help expand the base's capacity. The only problem is I need to unload the freighter, and I need a screwdriver to do that, which I don't actually have. Well, not really a screwdriver. I think I can do it without the screwdriver, but I need to get the Kerbals out and do that and fiddle about with KAS, and it's a bit of a hassle because it's going to take, I think, 2 Kerbals to lift each crate out. And long story short, I don't want to mess with it at the moment. But it will give me the capability, once those storage units are in place, to make the base much more self-sustainable, because it'll be able to build its own machinery and material kits to basically keep up repairs. And so with luck, Minmus will actually start producing for the rest of my network around Kerbin, which means I can have more special purpose ships floating about and build expensive stuff that, like, those electrically powered ships and whatnot, because I won't have to throw it away when I'm done with it. Speaking of which, I really should go and recover that pod. And here we go. We're just about ready for the maneuver. Yeah, it'll be normal at descending node. And then warp here. Okay, we're really gonna come screeching in here. we'll take that docking port, because we're already pretty much lined up for it. How are we doing for Delta V? Plenty to get back. Good, good, good. Oh! I had fine controls on there. It was moving that fast. Oh god. This thing is really, really twitchy. They built it too powerful. No, I really didn't bother balancing it all that well. It's not as well balanced as some of the other things I've been flying lately. So I've been spoiled. Because both the freighter and the other craft I have out there at Minmus, they all have really well balanced controls. This is before I got on the whole balancing kick. Whoa, 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 whoa. Stop shaking your rear. This isn't going to end well. Please grab magnets. Yes. Well, sloppy, crooked, but it's docked. Ugh. The other problem is that it was originally balanced for having a gigantic heat shield on the front, so I may end up decommissioning this one. There's a good prototype. Good prototype. It served well. I don't know. I'm not going to get rid of it without good reason, because it's still a useful ship to fly back and forth. It needs a new heat shield, but other than that, it's still useful and can be flown. And ideally, I'd rip these RCS ports off of it with an engineer and put on some better ones, but trying to do RCS outside of the vehicle assembly building with a Kerbal attachment system is a fool's errand, really. Oh yeah. Let's retract those and safe the engine. And I'd show you the freighter on Minimus, but it's honestly the most boring vehicle I've ever built. It just works. I kind of wasn't in a creative mood about it. But there we go. All done. And then this crew up here on the station can come back with the next spaceplane trip up here. We can bring Valentina and co. up here. Let's see what I need for the big heat shield. What else do I need to do before I call it a night in the stream? Oh yeah. Check the heat shield, and then if it's not in a part that I want to buy... No. It's in heavy landing. Yeah, it is. Okay, so that would do it. The 10-meter heat shield would do it, and it doesn't have any ablator on it. It just works. And so, yeah, we'll buy that. And if I bring up the Balamb's craft file here, I'll show you what the new plan will be for it. So, here's the Balamb. Let's get rid of the obvious. So, instead of this, as we threw this away, what we'll do instead is put one of these on, which mounts on like so. Oh, he updated the model for it. Cool. So probably what we'll do is we'll have this stripped off, because we can junk it with an engineer. We'll attach this here, and then inflate the heat shield. And we can also then get rid of these as well. So we can junk these heat shields here, and this big shield here will shield the entire craft. And the beauty is, this thing doesn't use ablators. It's not what's called an ablative heat shield, which is basically, ablative is a fancy word for bits of it fall off. So it basically burns away. And by burning, it takes that energy and wastes it on burning instead of heating the rest of the craft. So, but this works by a different principle. I can't remember. I think it's just a really high heat tolerance, or thermal blankets or something like that. And so this, because it doesn't use a blader, we can then... Oh yeah, it also has a shroud. Nice. Because it doesn't use a blader, we can get away with a few other things. We can basically reuse it again and again and again and again. Oh! Can I do this? Can I? This would be really cool if it works. Okay, let's just, for the sake of argument, put that on there. And... no, you can't. There are designs that you'll see in movies for heat shields that have engines poking through them. And they are based off of some ideas some folks in NASA have had, but as far as I know, nothing's ever been built like that. Uh, why would you have the engines in the heat shield, or... I don't quite know what your question is. Or why can't you? Um... Oh, in this case, it's just simply a restriction with Kerbal where the top node is built this way, where it puts the shroud on, and because the shroud's there, the heat shield is considered to be packed. So you can't deploy it while there's something on the top node, which kind of sucks. Because otherwise, I would set it up so there'd be not this engine, but a engine on the top here. Like, let's take something more realistic. If I was going to do it, I'd probably do it with a skipper. And if I could, I'd have the heat shield deploy once launched and stick out like this, but have the engine exposed. And the reason why I'd like it is because it puts all of the weight and all this right here in the center of pressure, which means it's much more stable. It's going to fall this way. Whereas if I put weight out here, it's not exactly stable. So I think because this is actually an aerodynamic part, it will be, but that's a whole other matter entirely. But yeah, that'll be the plan for fixing Balamb. And then I think I'm going to retool this a bit and build her sister ship, the Galbadia, which should fix some of my problems I have with this design. Namely, these fins getting caught in this. And probably a new antenna system instead of a high gain. I'll have a relay and better solar panel placement. Either that or switch to fuel cells. And obviously, these thrusters being switched to monopropellant. And being retuned and balanced. Oh dear, sorry about that. And then I will probably later on then build a model that uses Nion drive, which will be probably the Trabia, to carry on my Final Fantasy VIII naming convention. I honestly thought the heat shield would be good for more than one mission. I thought, okay, I'll have to replace the heat shields, maybe every 5 trips. That'll be kind of fun to work around. But losing that much later, yeah. They're going to have to get a redesign. And so here you can see the Wyvern. It's been actually quite useful transporting the crew up and down. It's done about 2 different trips. Its engines are really well balanced, and I have no complaints about it whatsoever. Actually, that's kind of beautiful the way that's all lined up there. Oh, I didn't know that you could go in here. Yeah, this is the inside of the science lab. Tools, circuits, air, parts, test, tubes, science, experiments, snacks, oxygen, water pipes, aspirator, servos, pickup jeb, and Kraken, or something Kraken. Don't press red button. Milk, eggs, butter, flour. Oh, avoid Kraken. Yes, always avoid the Kraken. That's one of the stock parts. It's just that's the one thing that's just lovable about Kerbal, is why I don't go with too many of the super realistic mods, is because why I like Rover Dudes is just because she's got this adorable touch to it of just wanting to explore and have fun. So here's the cargo ship, which for some reason the zoom is completely messed up. Okay. Oh, wow. Rover Dude, you made a really cool looking pod here. I've got to say. You didn't. So yeah, this is the Minima space. I don't know what's wrong with the camera. Go figure. it is actually making a positive amount of supplies, because it started out saying that there was supplies for 18 days. It now says there's supplies for 20 days. So that's good. I do need to turn on the fertilizer pump again, because yeah, there we go. So that's doing its thing. This is still full. I've got plenty of spare ore here. And the smelter will be able to work as soon as I get these warehouses over here out of this craft. Which I've got it basically packed full in the inside with a whole bunch of different warehouses and, well, not warehouses, but containers, which have the warehouse module on them. So there's 4 different containers in there. And my original plan was to pull them out with a rover or something else fancy, but honestly, I think I'm just going to grab them with a Kerbal and yoink them out when I feel like it. But it's an utterly boring ship, but it does what it's supposed to do. So, hey, whatever. I didn't want to build something super fancy. But yeah, I do love the romanticized and cartooniness about it. It's just, it's the way things should be, especially for a game. Anyhow, I hope you've enjoyed. I can't really think of anything else to show you. I've not really been doing much tonight except launching those things, landing them, picking things up, landing them again, moving them around, all that. Anyhow, hopefully tomorrow I'll get to do some cool stuff. Because tomorrow I'm going to build that rover and for the men. And send that out there. I'm just looking around here at all the different parts. I really want to get ion drives, because these would be nice on like a little shuttle around Minmus. Because then you wouldn't need nearly as much fuel. You just need enough fuel to get yourself off the surface and kinda to orbit, and then these would do the rest of the work. And just a whole bunch of solar panels. It'd be like a little sailboat. Anywho, take care, and I shall see you later, or tomorrow, or whenever. I don't know. I'm not going to sleep yet, but I'm definitely going to take a break from Kerbal. As soon as my computer stops choking. Alright. Alright. Gone. Take care.